Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for this cloud optimization webinar. We're talking about the power of Finops. So let me introduce you to everybody that we have here today. So my name is Rebecca. I lead on the marketing for the cloud. So I spread the word and I help connect to our customers. Joining me today is Steve Sell. He is our Director of Public Cloud and an all-round public cloud evangelist. And joining us as well is Rico. He is our Principal Cloud Consultant, and he's helping us helps customers to master the cloud. So we're going today to explore the world of cost optimization within the cloud, where to start, things to consider, and have a look at some of the anti-patterns seen within customers. So Steve, I shall hand over to you to have a talk through the agenda.
Okay, perfect. So today we're just going to give you a very quick introduction into who are NASSTAR. Some of you may well know of NASSTAR, but we're just going to give you a quick flavor as to who we are and how we serve our customers. And then we're going to focus on getting started within a cloud journey focused around optimization and sustainability for a business. We're then going to start looking at some of the functional levers and focus areas that you can focus on as a business. And then we're going to look at how do you sustain that pattern and maybe some of the pitfalls and anti-patterns we see within customers, which stops them from sustaining an optimization presence. We can then bring to life just a couple of case studies where we've helped customers in the past. And then obviously we can talk about the wider benefits of optimization beyond just purely cost. So that's the agenda. I hope that sounds nice and exciting, and we'll move forward. Okay, so welcome to NASSTAR. NASSTAR, it may not be a brand that you've heard of because we relaunched the brand only a couple of years ago, but ultimately we're a collection of niche and specialist cloud organizations that have been brought together to have like an unrivaled breadth of portfolio for cloud services. We work with customers around cloud adoption, cloud application modernization, cloud security, cloud productivity around modern workforces, and also anything to do with your digital layer and cloud transformation. And we wrap all of that with a next generation managed service. We're a 10-year premier partner with AWS, and also we're now in our 10th year as an accredited MSP partner. And we're also one of the leading Microsoft partners for modern work. We've got a highly accredited workforce and lots of competencies and skills, which you can find on our website. Obviously, we're accredited around public sectors, ISO accredited. We provide 24/7 services, and we've won awards for some of the services that we do. And we maintain a CSAT of around 9.5 out of 10 for our customers that we serve within our next generation managed services part of the business. So that's enough about us, but that's just hopefully giving you a flavor as to who NASSTAR are. So looking at some of the industry insights around optimization in general, in 2023, managing cloud costs surpassed security as the #1 focus for businesses when polled in a survey. And I think that was ultimately driven by COVID acting as an accelerator, where maybe revenue streams reduced as behavior of customers changed or citizens changed, but ultimately there were costs that were residual, and therefore that caused a major problem. So actually having a true optimization focus to drive continuous value to the business and to be able to handle unforeseen situations such as COVID, I think has probably focused the mind a little bit more. We also know that 60% of large organizations are looking to work with an MSP partner to help them achieve like cloud native architectures and specialist operations. And part of that is obviously around things like DevOps, SecOps, and FinOps to help them obviously go on their own cloud journey. Today, it's also estimated that roughly 30% of all cloud spend is wasted on resources that just aren't required. So it's really, really important for businesses to understand, what options are available to them within the optimization controls of cloud and how they can make sure that they can reduce that waste to the business to drive return on investment. Okay, if I'd like to move forward.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk around how you actually get started. So Steve, if I'm a business and I'm going on a cloud journey and I'm consuming cloud services, but I'm concerned that costs are going to spiral out of control, how would I approach this strategically?
Yeah, okay. So there's some functional levers that we'll come on to in terms of the physical focus areas that you can do, but there's some underpinning foundation stones that as a business you really want to get right before you even start thinking about tinkering within the world of optimization. So as a business, identifying your goals, what do you want to achieve? It could be financial accountability around your business, ensuring that maybe projects or business units are accountable for the spend profile associated with their own IT. Therefore, you can attribute costs around the business in a more accurate way. It could be just around generally delivering maximized return on investment to the business and knowing that you're getting good value from your cloud stack. Or it could be about improved forecasting, understanding what are your costs tomorrow and next month based on your current demand profile and trajectory. So identify your goals and prioritize them, because the way you then navigate the cloud and the way you set up your insights will really be dictated by what you're trying to achieve and in what order. So that moves you on to business insights. To be able to manage something or master something, you need to be able to measure it. So make sure that whichever hyperscaler you're working with, unlock the business insights within the stack. You've got things like AWS Cost Explorer or Azure's Cost Manager, or there's lots of third-party tooling out there at a premium as well that can offer some really good out-of-the-box insights. Now, for me, actually looking at what the cloud native tools can do in the last couple of years, they've really come on leaps and bounds. And actually they can provide fantastic insights, tagging, thresholds, reporting, and pretty much anything you want if you understand what your goal is. And you've got some devs who can actually work within those business insights to craft and tag your infrastructure to actually tell the story that you want. And we'll come on and show you a couple of those dashboards later on around business insights. It's also important to build cross-functional teams or services within your organization. So a couple of concepts that you may well have heard of, you may well know. So there's a cloud center of excellence concept. So this should be where your thought leadership comes from. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And when are we going to do it? And many organizations think that just starts with the technical practices, your architects and your devs talking about build patterns and dev patterns and reusable artifacts. But actually, a true center of excellence should be thought leadership at a strategic level. So it should have a voice from the customer, from your service delivery management area. It should also have a voice from CTO, and it should also have C-suite sponsorship, because you may well be making recommendations to the business about spending capex up front, investing in certain initiatives. So you really need a center of excellence that can act as that trusted advisor for your organization. And some organizations work with a partner and actually take that COE type service as part of a ongoing MSP type service, and rely on a partner to be that trusted advisor to drive their roadmap. Also, the concept of Finops. So Finops is a term widely used in the industry now to provide financial assurance within cloud. It sits between your developers and architects spinning up IT assets and burning pennies, and actually the business aspects and the finance aspects to say, are we driving value? Are we governing this correctly? Now, in some organizations, this could be a full functional team. It could be a function of a DevOps community with health checks or standard ways of working or reports, or it could be a consumed service that you take from a partner or as part of an ongoing managed service. But understanding what your answer is to Finops to provide a layer of financial assurance across all of your cloud spend is really important. And then coming on to that trusted advisor aspect, understand who your trusted advisor is in your business. Is it the person sitting within your center of excellence? Maybe it's a technical practice lead or a CTO, or maybe it's a partner and an MSP partner who's going to be your CTO at the table, who's going to help you unlock the business insights and work with these cross-functional teams to actually start putting roadmap recommendations in place to drive your business strategy. Now, you need that trusted advisor, because if you pull the levers in the wrong order, there could be some trade-offs further down the roadmap. So it's really important to think strategically about which things to unlock and when to do it. Okay, thank you, Rebecca.
So you mentioned there about different levers, and that's really great. And I know I have the strategy, but what are those functional levers that I can pull, or what areas can I focus on to unlock the savings now?
Yeah, okay. So This slide is a favorite of mine because I think it explains the cloud adoption and modernization journey from so many angles. Obviously, over on the left here in the grey, you can see somebody who's maybe on-premise or within their own data center or within maybe even a private cloud. And ultimately, what this is showing is how your carbon and costs can reduce as you pull these optimization levers or go on a cloud modernization journey. And you can see the level of modernization. So I pirouetting the other way in blue there. And down the bottom here, we've tried to show where a Finops focus and a center of excellence focus would go on that journey with you. So myself and Rico, we're just going to bring to life some of these levers. We're not going to go into like the nth degree across the different hyperscalers because we could be here for the next 3 hours. And that's something we'd welcome conversations with you on. But to just give you a flavor, so like the first thing to look at is obviously migrating to the cloud. Now, obviously, that's the first opportunity to save money. Now, a migration can often take the form of a lift and shift, where you're ultimately recreating what you've already got on-prem, and that could be because you've got a data or a data center exit strategy, which is the biggest priority for your business. So you're not really interested right now in the full re-architecting of your solutions, and you just want to lift and shift them into cloud and then go on a modernization as a second step. So it's important to understand where you are and whether you are in the lift and shift category or whether you actually want to refactor and look at it workload by workload and start looking at what's like refactoring and re-architecting components you could consider as you migrate into the cloud. And that's those first 2 to 3 blocks there. Because when we talk about right sizing in the second pink block, right sizing is about questioning, do I need to recreate what I've got today? Do the servers need to be the same size as what I've got today? With elements in public clouds such as auto scaling, actually you don't necessarily need to architect for servers to deal with your peak loads and then have a load of unused compute power sitting there residual the rest of the time. You can actually optimize it to be in line with your like medium modes and then have some auto scaling features to deal with those peaks. So actually having a trusted advisor and architect look at the actual stack, the business demands and the throughput, you can actually refactor some of your pieces and actually unlock some gains. And if you've done a lift and shift, actually right sizing can then be done as an incremental piece afterwards to say which servers or instances are the right things for my company. Once you've like right sized and you now feel that you're on the right type of architecture, it then comes into the topic of reserved instances. So Rico, do you want to just bring to life what we mean by reserved instances?
Yeah, no problem, Stephen. So reserved instances, that allows you to essentially pre-allocate a reserved instance for a set amount of time. So for example, you could commit to 1 year or maybe 3 years, and by doing that you get quite a significant discount from the public cloud providers. So you know, if you know that those kind of workloads are going to stay there, then it is definitely worth looking at reserved instances sooner rather than later, to be honest. Now, if you do put reserved instances in though, and you feel that it's not right, there is cancellation charges that usually occur. So it's really important that you understand that workload, you know, and make sure that you're definitely certain that it's going to stay in place. But reserved instances are a really great way to have some quick savings on your workloads, especially when you've just moved into the cloud as well.
Yeah, thanks, Rico. And I think within that reserved instance realm, sometimes you won't want to reserve instances for the full 100% of the stack. And based on your own sort of risk and reward posture, you may say, I want to reserve instances on 50% or 60% or 70%.
Absolutely.
And as you say, you work with an architect and a trusted advisor to say what's the right level to reserve instances at.
Yeah.
And I know the hyperscalers have also relatively recently, probably in the last year to 18 months, they've introduced portable reserved instances where there's a slightly reduced initial saving. However, they are portable across different instance families. So it gives you that extra little bit of portability. And so you can unlock like discounts of like anything from about 12 up to about 28%, depending on what you select. So that's great. I suppose the next thing is kind of it's an anti-pattern as well. It's environment scheduling. It's something that gets overlooked time and time again, and it's, you know, questioning, does I suppose in the old world, we just kept things on all of the time in a data center, sitting there spinning, waiting for the next day. In a public cloud world, you've got a lot more flexibility. So you can question, when does the user base, the customers or the citizens, use this environment? When does this environment need to be up and functioning? If it's a UAT or test environment, does it even need to be up at all between project sprints or scrums? And lots of the waste within public cloud are just environments that are left up spinning, and actually they're not required. So making sure that your DevOps have a really, really proactive strategy and structure to say, what's the schedule associated with each and every environment? Make sure it's automated. Don't leave it to human intervention. Humans will always fail in some way, shape, or form. Automate it, put the scheduling in place, put the health checks in place, and there'll be a hell of a lot of savings that you can achieve. So
I think
sorry,
I was just going to say, one of the good examples of doing that is VDI applications, or VDI that you might use 9 till 5. We've noticed customers that may have, a high number of VDIs during the day, but then after 6 p.m. or 7 p.m, those machines, they're not actually getting used. So looking at the environment scheduling for those sort of workloads, you could actually have some good savings if you if it works for your business. Of course, if you're a 24/7 side of the business, then it might not be relevant. But it's one of those things as part of your kind of your cost optimization, is to look at the sort of activity, the utilization on that sort of workload, and see, is there something that you could turn off out of hours and then schedule, a boot back up in the morning, or you just lower the amount of counts of VDIs, say from 100 down to 10, for example. So there's lots of good ways to do that.
Yeah, great point. And if you want to carry on, Rico, I suppose the next thing is something that not many people know about, actually, which is spot instances. And what are they, when to use them, and I know myself, you can unlock 50 to 70% savings using a spot instance. So what is a spot instance?
So on the Azure side, I've done quite a lot of spot instances on there for customers. It's almost like if you have data centers that are not really getting utilized, you can actually reserve instances within those areas. You get a much bigger discount, but at the same time, it's not always permanent. So in the Azure world, for example, you could get an instance that's very, very cheap because that data center is not really used. But once they may get more customers in there and starting to spin up lots of instances in there, that means that the requirement for those machines, are higher. And if that means that the cost can also increase, or you can set that, once it hits a certain threshold, that you then go RRP. So it's a kind of, I would say it's a very lessly used feature for an Azure example. Not a lot of customers are actually using it, but they are aware of it more often now, and they're actually asking about it. So we're looking at certain workloads that might be suitable for that. Dev and test environments are great for spot instances, for example, because if they go down or get turned off, it's not going to be a major concern because of the workloads that are on there. So it's a really good one to test out, or at least look into.
Yeah, and another use case is innovation and proof of values. Innovation budgets aren't always available, so actually being able to do things very cheap, and obviously the clue is in the name. It's something you're going to do it for a time measured. It's on the spot. It's some compute power you can access for a tactical reason, and actually, proof of values, dev environments, sandpit environments, fantastic use cases for spot instances. And all of the customers that I've worked with across Azure and AWS, not many customers know about spot instances, and very few of them have actually unlocked the benefits of it. So okay. So then that brings us on to storage. So when we start to look at cost insights, storage is the kind of the most static element of the bill, because storage it doesn't have the same level of agility, because typically you're just putting more and more and more into it. So it's kind of doesn't move that much on the bill. So therefore, again, when you come back to scheduling and maintenance, it's really important to think about your data. What is it? Who needs to access it? How long do you need to keep it for? And how readily do you need this data to be accessed? Because there are mechanisms across Azure, AWS, and any hyperscaler which will provide cheaper storage options, but maybe will have a slight trade-off in terms of the readily availability or the accessibility of that data. So if you need to maintain it for 12 months and be readily available, great, but maybe you'll have an archiving policy to say we need to maintain all data for 5 years, but we don't readily access it, in which case there are options where you could make significant savings by looking at things like Glacier, say within AWS, and what is it within Azure, Rico?
So we've got the Azure storage or Azure. There's Azure Blob Storage, Azure Containers, and also Azure Files, but they're all part of the Azure Storage product. And just kind of similar to that, you've got different tierings. So you've got hot and cold storage. And of course, if you've got data that needs to be archived, you could put that in cold storage. It takes a bit longer to access it, like Stephen said, but it is a lot cheaper. And also, we did mention reserved instances. That is also something that can apply to storage. If you know that you've got a set amount of storage that you will keep, you can look at reserved instances for that as well to get those savings. But as part of a migration or a lift and shift, you might find that you have a lot of data at the very start, and it is really important to review that data and ensure that the data that you need or the data that you're keeping is required, because you might have a lot of data that actually you don't need and you're probably paying for it monthly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rico. So I'm going to cover the next two, so I go in one really. So I've got savings plans and an MSP partner. So savings plans are available directly with the hyperscaler, and there's all sorts of discount plans on different workloads. There's like enterprise discount plans. There's things like OGVAs, which is like more directed at the public sector. But again, working with the hyperscaler or a partner to find the right combination of savings plans for yourself can unlock some significant savings. So as an MSP partner, certainly at NASSTAR, we obviously keep abreast of all of these options, and whether it's discounts on Windows workloads, discounts on certain types of databases, there's all sorts of things, and it's changing all the time. So keeping on top of all of the moving parts, all of the discount plans, how we can translate that opportunity into some business relief, or actually the other way around, translate a business challenge into a cloud solution. It really involves keeping abreast of all of the savings plans, and also on that next piece along, the innovation. There's new features and releases and services being released all the time, and as an MSP partner, what we do is help to translate that opportunity into some real business value. So I think as customers today, they don't want just uptime. They need somebody who's going to work as a trusted advisor and tell them that everything's secure, everything's optimized. There are agility options, and everything is cost optimized, and actually their carbon footprint's also moving in the right direction as well. So as you move further and further to the right here, you can see we start to get into the world of what we call modernization, and we've just put in brackets serverless technologies. So Rico, do you want to just touch on what we mean by serverless technologies and microservices and bring that to life for us?
Yeah, so essentially it's the complete opposite end of that lift and shift migrate, obviously, and you've done your lift and shift, you've moved into the cloud, you've realized that the costs are quite high, but you might have workloads or applications or systems in place that doesn't actually need to be running on VM infrastructure. It could actually be serverless using Azure Functions, or we could be using Azure SQL instances. There's a lot of different kind of serverless products that can replace that old school lift and shift sort of technologies. It's kind of important though to understand what your workloads are and how they actually can be modernized. I'm sure we'll agree it's not very easy to move from a migrate point straight to modernization. It is a journey, but that will provide the most savings in the end, in the long run. So serverless is, it sounds like a new product or technology, but it has been out for many years. And, if you've got application developers or you do development in-house, you can certainly jump onto modernization technologies pretty quickly. If you have products from a vendor, you're obviously tied down to those vendors to work with you to modernize their applications as well. But we're finding that a lot of vendors are looking at modernization. They're looking at serverless products rather than having those old school virtual machines. I call them old school because we've had virtual machines for 10, 20 years. So, it's a big change.
Yeah, I think, as I say, serverless technologies, it's like the next revolution of compute power, really.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is where there are business functions that don't need static compute power, and you need to achieve a true pay-as-you-go consumable approach to cloud, unlocking serverless technologies and it really starts to drive some business value. And what we do as an MSP partner is help our customers look at their own journey, and everybody's journey is completely different. Some are starting from the grey box, and some are already well into this, and some of our customers were already modernizing straight into serverless technologies and unlocking some of those benefits. And what we try to do is translate for each customer, where are you on your journey? What's the next lever we can pull for you? And how can we continuously provide that trusted advisor service to say, how can you achieve business sustainability? And that's what we're looking there, and that's like green bubble at the end. You know, we want to make sure that you can continuously drive performance up, carbon down, costs down, whilst you focus on your own customers' experience within your own digital layer. And that's how we try to serve our customers, to make sure that you focus on your digital core business, and we provide the insights and the opportunity within the world of public cloud. And that CCOE, whether you go on this journey yourselves and establish a credible center of excellence that's going to take you on this journey, or whether you work with a partner to do that, you really need to embed optimization as a continuous theme. None of these are single transactional processes, because even right sizing or reserving of instances, within 6 months, there'll be a opportunity that probably supersedes your decision making. So it's having a continuous lens on optimization and what comes next.
Yeah, just to add to that, Stephen, one of the other kind of key components of serverless is that you can scale up or scale down. So, you know, if you've got some sort of project happening, or you've got a workload that you know is going to take a lot of demand, going serverless covers that, because it's very, very elastic, unlike the kind of standard VM, where you might only have a set amount of capacity. You might need to add more of those. There's a lot of design changes to make that load balance, for example. So by going serverless, you can be sure that, you know, that it's scalable to your business needs as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Rebecca.
So thanks guys. There's so many options there, and I think that kind of leads me into my next question. With all of those options and all of those levers that you've just talked about, it feels like it could become a bit of a minefield. Where are people going wrong, and how can we manage those costs as a feature, kind of ongoing feature?
Yeah, okay, great question. And obviously we work with many customers across both public and private sectors, small, medium and large, and we do see common anti-patterns, I would say. The first anti-pattern is, you know, that first box there, architect for public cloud. So many customers or so many businesses will just try to recreate what they've already got in the legacy world in public cloud. And then they'll come and have a conversation and say, I moved to public cloud and it wasn't any cheaper. What did I do wrong? And it's a case of, you need a public cloud trusted advisor who can help you make those strategic decisions. So if you're at the start of your journey and thinking about cloud, the discovery and the art of the possible is the first thing to consider. You know, can I refactor? Can I change anything? Can I unlock serverless technologies? Or actually, am I going to do a lift and shift, but then very quickly follow it up with the next round of what comes next? You know, don't do it as a one-off transaction. I'm out of my data center, I'm in public cloud, fantastic, pat ourselves on the back and then walk away. It's got to be this evergreen culture to, okay, I'm in public cloud now and the world is moving fast and the opportunity is all around me. How do I unlock all of these features as a permanent thing? So establishing that Finops layer is clearly fantastic. It can be a service from somebody else, it can be a team, it can be a function if you're not big enough to have a dedicated team. Make sure you understand what your center of excellence, your cloud center of excellence, where's that thought leadership? In a small company, that may be one guru sitting in the corner. It could be a small team of people made up of devs, architects, service delivery, and C-suites, or it could be coming from a MSP type partner where someone's going to come in and provide all of that insight for you and be that voice of reason. But understand, you know, what's your answer to CCOE and Finops, even if you're procuring it from somebody else. And make sure that education becomes a theme. You know, even ourselves, you know, we're MSP partners, we're accredited across lots of things, but we find it difficult to keep on top of everything because there's so much happening all the time and it's really exciting and the opportunity is amazing. But actually being able to continue to stay on top of everything, to translate that into opportunities for ourselves and our customers, it's a real challenge. And we align specialist architects to man-mark storage or networks or serverless technologies so that they can bring the thought leadership into our own center of excellence and we can translate that into opportunity to our customers. So think about how you're going to embed a continuous learning approach within your own organization and consider Do I need to work with an MSP partner, somebody who's going to be the thought leader for me, someone who's going to translate this opportunity into my own business roadmap? And if I'm not going to work with an MSP partner, how will I achieve these things myself? And as I say, it's a aggressive word to use, but there that you can sometimes get some naivety with people trying to navigate public cloud and thinking that they jump into the cloud and it all just magically happens. And remember, any decisions you make, whether it's right sizing, reserved instances, etc., a decision today may be a short-term gain, but it could have a trade-off in 3 months or 6 months or 9 months if you don't look at it strategically and as part of a longer-term roadmap. I don't know if there's anything you want to add there, Rico, because I covered some of that.
No, I think that's pretty spot on. I would say that the journey to public cloud and the products and technologies that are appearing, it's quite exhausting sometimes, and it really is important that you keep on top of that and keep awareness. So like Stephen says, we are certified in AWS and Azure. We do all the certifications, experience. We work with those providers very closely, and it is a very, very busy job to keep on top of things. So having somebody who's available that can help you out with your journey is probably a great shout. I've been in that boat where you're the one person in that business trying to keep up and top. It's very difficult to do, and just having the consultancy from a provider like ourselves, it's a great thing to try out. You will get some great benefits out of it.
Okay.
So that leads me on to my next question. We've talked a lot around the different levers, and we've talked around what to do or what not to do. So where has NASSTAR actually helped some customers? How's that actually worked?
Okay. So I'm not going to go through this full slide because it's quite a busy slide, but this is a slide that we use to represent what we call our next generation managed services. So any of our organizations that are already working with us in public cloud, Azure and AWS, we approach everything in a customer-centric DevOps way. And by doing that, we overlap our managed service management and operations area with our technical practices of developers and architects. And by doing that, we create this DevOps community where they've got a constant focus on SecOps, Finops, and these functional outputs. We also create this trusted advisor role, which means our architects are aligned to our customers. So they almost become that mini cloud CTO for our customers and can help translate all of the things that are happening within the hyperscaler and the industry into something relevant to that specific customer's roadmap, milestones, or business challenge. And then obviously by overlapping our development and architecture communities, we develop our own cloud center of excellence. So those virtual roles that we've created within our own delivery model means that anyone who's working with us as part of an MSP agreement will naturally get a cost optimization service as an ongoing feature of what we do around cost, security, performance, and sustainability. If we move to the next slide, Rebecca, obviously this is just an example really of some of these business insights that we unlock within the cloud native tool sets. It allows us to drill down into what customers are spending based on layers, and we can also help with tagging to start to apportion this to business units or projects to drive accountability or governance. We can set thresholds around accounts and growth metrics. So if we see accounts growing exponentially, we can alert to that. We can also put caps on accounts. So if developers have got sandpit environments or play accounts, we can put alerts to make sure that people don't get carried away playing with all of the wonderful toys available within public cloud. And obviously we provide customer dashboards as well. So our customers can actually access these dashboards and have day in, day out access to and visibility to their own cloud spend, which is really, really important. So that, coming back to that stat, 30% of all cloud spend is wasted. We're trying to make sure that we're an ambassador to say, let's not waste money. Let's always look at the opportunity. We'll never get you down to zero waste, but let's drive that number down and try and drive some return on investment to your business. So where have we done this recently? So a couple of great use cases. So we've worked with the Rail Delivery Group for 10 years, and I've used them as an example because all of those levers and that journey that we talked about, we've probably got undertaken all of those levers with the Rail Delivery Group, one of our most prestige accounts. So from initial cloud adoption all the way through to serverless modernization today, unlocking enterprise discount plans, right sizing, reserved instances. We've worked with the Rail Delivery Group, and we've optimized them exceeding 30% on some of their significant work stacks. So that's a great example. And when it's something like the rail industry, it's they require full financial accountability, et cetera. They need to drive value into their business. And obviously with COVID, people stopped traveling, but the cost base was there. So it really drove more and more focus on what else can we do. So serverless modernization was one of the things that we're now helping to unlock, but also just continuously driving optimization in as an ongoing focus is something that we're going to do with the Rail Delivery Group and any of our other major customers. But outside of our managed service customers, we also work as a consultancy or project partner. And earlier this year, we worked with an educational provider, and we talked to them, and they were already working with another MSP partner, but probably more focused on adopt cloud, migrate to cloud, and we're in these constant sprints. And they probably acknowledged that they hadn't had enough focus on value and optimization. So we agreed to go in and do like a bit of a health check using our consultancy framework to see what the art of the possible was and whether there was some value that we could drive. Now, this particular customer was spending in excess of £5 million across the hyperscalers, so pretty significant. And within the first 10 days of our consultancy health check, we'd actually identified 17.5% of optimizations that were within reach that could then be planned into a roadmap to start unlocking some real value to the business. So everything sort of starts with, let's have a look and measure it. Let's see what the art of the possible is, and then let's see how we can plan a roadmap with you to help unlock some of that stuff. And the benefits of obviously looking at optimization is around improved insights and visibility, selecting the right purchasing options, but making sure you approach that with a strategic lens, matching cost to demand. And every business is different. So every business needs a unique business approach to this. We don't do a bottoms-up infrastructure approach. It's what's right for your business. Identify quick wins. There are some things which we can do rapidly to drive some savings, and then there'll be other things which are more strategic and can be planned over a longer period. Defining architecture roadmaps and the benefits to the business, that may well require investment, business cases, and therefore having someone who can translate that opportunity for you is something that you really do need if you want to go on a sustainable cloud journey. And then measuring progress against those sustainability targets. Are we on track? Are we making progress? And are we continuously putting one foot in front of another? Or have we actually started to become stagnant within the world of cloud?
So I suppose my last question then, Steve, is we've talked a lot about cost today. Does optimization traverse the business? Does optimization traverse benefits wider than just purely cost? How far-reaching is that?
Yeah, of course. So optimization in the industry seems to have a focus of cost, but ultimately the hyperscalers are now looking at as well around sustainability, and they're introducing things like carbon footprint calculators into migration tools and all the rest of it. So sustainability now is about, from a NASSTAR point of view, it's about business sustainability, which is cost, it's carbon, it's customer experience, it's performance, it's agility. So it's all of these things. So the total cost of saving is clearly always going to be a primary driver for utilizing new technologies. But staff productivity, having people spending less time on reactive tasks and looking after hardware, and actually moving further up the stack and focusing on your core digital strategy and what you can deliver to your customer. So you can actually drive some efficiencies into your own staff profile. Operational resilience, having less failure points, having always on highly resilient auto-scaling solutions means that your business can spend less time looking backwards to say what went wrong yesterday and how do we stop it from happening again, and actually spend more time looking forward in terms of what can we do to evolve, how can we get a competitive edge, how can we serve our customers or citizens in a better way. So public cloud gives you that level of agility around costs and technical solutions to actually pull lots of levers in a very quick way. But ultimately, you need to have someone who can translate that opportunity to make sure that you're always looking at the security, the performance, the costs, the carbon, and coming up with a blended view that's right for your business. And ultimately, the business transformation is what you really want to be looking at. You want a sustainable approach to business transformation within cloud. So it's performance, it's carbon, it's cost, and it's customer experience. And if you're trending positively against all of those things, then actually you're probably mastering public cloud and doing a really, really good job of it. So there's a few stats on here I've popped on here. I won't go through them all, but 68% reduction in developer costs. That's a on-prem to public cloud type benefit statement. 58% less mean time to repair. So again, you're not looking backwards, you're not chasing after failure components, you're spending more time looking at automation, orchestration, and how you can increase your time to market. So we won't go through all of them today, because I think we want to leave a little bit of time for some questions and answers. But ultimately, hopefully that's given you a good flavour of what cost optimization is, what Finops is, but ultimately what a sustainable posture within public cloud really can look like.
Okay, so as you mentioned, we're going to have a quick look at the Q&A. Bear with me one moment. Let's just see what we have in here. So we've had a couple of questions come in. The first one here is, how do you know which partner to go with? What credentials or attributes should I be looking for?
Are we talking a partner in terms of the hyperscaler, or are we talking in terms of a partner in terms of like a managed services partner?
I think managed service partner, please, Steve.
Okay, so obviously once a managed service partner can work in a consultancy project and managed services point of view. So looking for somebody who's accredited, looking for somebody who's experienced, looking for someone maybe who's got some great case studies to say, we've worked with businesses with your type of profile before. And people who, when you talk to them, you get the confidence that they don't just want to do a transactional lift and shift or sell you something based on a transactional statement. You want somebody who's going to come in and think about your business, almost put your badge on and become somebody at the table representing your business and your roadmap. And what we try to do at NASSTAR is we work back from your business problems and say, what's the right next step for your particular business, as opposed to saying, you'd like us to move this thing from A to B. Because that may not be the right thing. We'd like to always challenge and say, what's the art of the possible? Have you thought about the outliers? So look for someone who's accredited, look for someone who speaks your language, look for someone who's agile and can work at the right pace for your own organization, because everybody moves at different paces, and finding someone who's got that right cultural fit, I think, is probably one of the key ingredients. And that's where we've got stickiness with certain customers, because it's just a really, really good natural fit. We have an organic relationship, and we continuously try to delight them, and they continuously come back to us because we're easy to work with. Hopefully that's answered that question.
I think so. And there's a good one here as well. As in-house IT, what's the best approach to bring finance teams and the rest of the business on board with this? How would you go about buy-in from a wider business perspective?
Yeah, great question. I was thinking about this just yesterday, actually, and a concept I came up with in my head. If I'm thinking about a central IT team who really want to, almost take the term of Finops and say, we want to do this, but no one wants to spend money on IT, right? Because it's either failing and everyone hates it, or it's not failing and therefore it's an overhead. So that's the world of IT. But in a world of Finops, if you can look at some of these industry stats or build a business case, you can actually probably build a Finops function and actually fund it from some of the low-hanging fruit savings. So ultimately, it pays for itself. So you can build a return on investment business case quite quickly to say, if we build this function or we procure this function, we can actually unlock some of these initial benefits, which will not only pay for the function, but will also now give us a sustainable focus on these things going forward and unlock further benefits. So it's about building that business case and getting your CFO in a room and numbers talk. It's always about building that business case and saying, let's do this, because if we don't, we will stop being competitive in our industry, because everybody else will be.
I think that's a good point, Stephen. It's about, being competitive as well. It's not just about the IT, the infrastructure. We come from a legacy background. We're paying monthly or yearly costs for aging hardware. we see that as a kind of burden almost. Now that you're moving into the cloud, it's an evolving journey. There is products and technologies that are appearing in the cloud all the time, something that's always in front of us, and it gives us a goal and a direction to head to. So, you know, today your business might be running really well, but these new products and services, the competitors are probably looking into those as well. It's always worth being ahead of the game with that, and that's why I think it's a great place to move. And if you explain it like that to the financials, then they understand that, you know, the business isn't static, the hardware isn't static, the products isn't static, everything is evolving. The people, the productivity, the services, you name it, and that's where the cloud can help you with that journey.
Yeah.
We've got one last question that's come in here. This company has not migrated all of their applications to the cloud yet. Are they still able to get some of these benefits? And I think, Steve, this really talks to where you mentioned earlier that different organizations are on different paths and they're on this journey at different levels as well.
Yeah, so approaching that at the highest level, because I'd love to get into the detail of that question with whoever's asked it and actually give you some greater insight. So maybe that's something we can do at a later date. But ultimately, as you move into cloud, obviously there's two things. Has the stuff that I've already moved to cloud, has it got a story and a strategy around optimization and a transformation journey? So it could be a lift and shift, and then they call it a lift, tinker and shift. And then it could be a re-architecture, or it could be a what workloads could we move into a cloud native kind of serverless microservices approach. So that's the stuff you've already got on the journey. But then also looking at the stuff that's not in the cloud as yet. You know, you really want to be thinking, what's the art of the possible? Do I want to just take the infrastructure and pop it into cloud again? Or actually, do some of these things need to be superseded or refactored or re-architected? So I would say approach everything top down from a workload perspective, question that workload, its functionality, how it's integrated into the business, and what the options are for that workload, as opposed to thinking bottoms up and thinking, I've got all of this hardware, how do I take it on a journey? Because it's much harder to approach it from the bottom than it is from the top. Rico, is there anything you want to add to that?
That's absolutely perfect. Rather than thinking it as a data center shift, it is a workload shift. So you're breaking it down. That gives you more options rather than thinking, okay, we've got a full data center, it's big bang moves. That's not really the way to approach this sort of modernization journey. It's looking at those workloads and realizing, are those workloads fit for today? You know, they might have been put in a number of years ago. Great, they work, you know, don't break, if it's not broken, don't touch it, sort of thing. But is that going to evolve with your business going forward? So looking at what the options are for each of those workloads, seeing what's available in the cloud today and maybe even in the future, and planning that out in advance is really, really important.
And then building the business plan around it. Re-architecting an application can be expensive and can be scary, but if you then look at all of those cost optimization levers, if you unlock all of them, the return on investment can be pretty significant, hundreds and hundreds of percent of costs. So you can then build a business case to say there's some upfront cost to re-architect, but it's going to pay for itself over a period of time. And building that business case is something that, again, partners can help you with.
Definitely.
Perfect. So let's close the Q&A there. I want to say a huge thank you to Steve and to Rico, and for all of you for joining us today. Steve, is there any kind of final thoughts that you want to add on the end here?
No, again, thank you for attending. You know, we're really passionate about cost modernization, cloud modernization, and helping customers unlock some of this stuff. We speak the language of business. So if anybody needs help, reach out. We'd love to jump on a call and explore your specific use case and get into some more detail with you.
Definitely.
Fantastic. Thank you both for joining us, and thank you everybody for attending the webinar today. Thanks very much.
Thanks all.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.